Hey guys, what's up? It's Zola, and today I'm going to be doing a really super useful tutorial, one that I've used so many times, and it's basically how to build your own brushes. Now, if you remember the brush video which I did like a couple of weeks ago and you watched that, I mentioned how I would be showing you how to make custom brushes and why they're useful. As you may have seen from my brush panel, I have a multitude of different brushes, and I'll show you, I remember showing you like some of the uses for those, like adding birds and all that kind of stuff. So today I'm going to show you how to make your own, and some of the examples we can use in terms of the ones we're making. So today I'm going to start with one of the easier, more useful ones definitely that you should start with, and that is making a cloud brush. Now, the advantage of making cloud brushes is that you can literally then go and paint clouds on anything. You can layer clouds up. I have about 3 sets of cloud brushes that I use, and no, literally like 3 cloud brushes. But today I'm going to make a new one. So first thing we're going to do is find a nice image with, there's different kinds of brushes you can make, and I'll show you an example now. So if I just make, I'm going to make a new document actually and show you this on, we're going to fill this with 50% grey. So to bring up the fill menu, it's shift and backspace. So I'm going to have like a neutral grey here, and I'll show you the brushes that I use. So this one is the one I use, and if we have a look, and as you can see, as we build it up, it creates like white fluffy clouds. I also use this for feathering the edges of masks, because it kind of adds a broken up edge. So that is super useful brush, and probably the one I use the most. But then I have different brushes. If I come up here, like I said, I only have about 3. I'm going to create a new layer here. I only have about, and so I have this one as well, which creates like these, again, quite a soft cloud. But as you paint, you can see how that would build up. I have a couple of these like sideways ones, and you can see how building this up quickly can get you different looking clouds. So like I said, there's different kinds of ones, and I can show you some other ones I have here. I have like these city ones for creating cities in the background, and I can, you know, quickly build up. That's probably not the right one to show you, but as you can see here, you can create like cities with depth, and this is just from taking silhouettes of cities I have and then tweaking around with the brush settings. So let's show you how to make one of these instead of just showing off my brush collection there. So I have an image here of some clouds. You can pick any image of clouds. The only thing I think, depending on the kind of brush you're trying to make, if you're trying to make a brush that's literally going to emulate these clouds, then you want to find one with some nice contrast, some nice darks, some nice lights. And or like the first one I showed you, if I bring this brush menu back, so this is perfect for creating a brush like, and just create a new layer here, a brush like this one, where, you know, you're going to have clouds that are going to sit in the sky and they're going to look realistic. If you want to create one like this, which are like less realistic clouds but actually good for feathering masks, then you'll see from the technique that I'm showing you that that's quite easy to do as well. So enough procrastinating. What I'm going to do, basically the way you create a brush is you have to create a black and white image, and then Photoshop interprets the black and white information and makes a brush out of it. So the first thing we're going to do to make this black and white is add a black and white filter, because this is going to help us isolate what we want. So the background of the brush has to be white, and then all the brush information has to be dark. So I've added the black and white filter because it lets me control the darks and the lights based on the color information, and obviously there's lots of blue here, so we're going to use that to our advantage. So I'm going to press F to go into full screen mode here, just so we've got a bit more room to work with. Okay, so obviously let's go down to the blues, and as you can see straight away, like I said, what we're trying to do is isolate them onto a black and white image. Now, depending on how detailed you want your brush to go, I'm gonna zoom right in here, and I'm gonna try and not lose any of this like nice detail around the wisps of clouds, because that's all kind of lovely. See, if I go here, we're going to start to get crunchy edges. So that's too much. So we're going to bring that back a bit, but also we don't want any kind of like fringing here. So there's two. You have the cyans and the blues, because this image is made up of blues and cyans, you know, which are like just obviously slightly different shades of blue. So as you can see here, the darks at the top are controlled more with the blue slider, and then as we get towards the bottom of the image here, you'll see the gradient starts to go from light to dark, so this is being more controlled by the cyans. So let's come into here and just knock this down, and I'm not going to mind about losing any stuff like that, and maybe I'll keep some of these little clouds as well. Let's try and keep as much of that as possible. Okay, let's say like that's a pretty good starting point, because we can always go in and paint like the rest out. Now, like I said, we're going to want the background to be white and this to be black, so I'm going to add an invert here, and this is what your brushes should look like. So you have a white background, and then dark area is the actual information in the brush. So this is perfect, pretty much, but the problem is we're going to have to draw a rectangle around the area that we want to define as a brush. Now, obviously we have overlapping things here. This, I could make a brush quite easily out of these two clouds right here, but I'm going to say I want this kind of big cloud here as my brush. But obviously I could pick this right here is already a candidate. Obviously the area around it is not white, so I would have to do more color correction, but let's just say for argument's sake I want to make this big cloud here my brush. So what I'm going to have to do is get rid of everything around it. So I'm going to select my lasso tool. If we come up here, just hit L on your keyboard, and I'm going to draw around the area that I want to get rid of. Let's just do that, and I'm going to add a new layer here above everything. Now if I hit Control Shift I, I'm going to invert the selection, which means everything outside of what I selected is now selected, which is a bit confusing, but like I said, and I'm going to hit Shift Backspace and just fill this area with white, and you can see what that's done. Now the problem is we still have hard edges, and this is going to show up here, and this is why you should really like zoom into your image. If I press F again to come back to my normal screen mode, come down here to 100%, because that's what you want your brush, that's the one where you want your brush to be at full detail. So obviously at 100% we're seeing problems here. So I'm going to come into my layer up here, and I'm going to start painting. Now I could pick a soft brush. Obviously I've shown you the advantages of having this kind of slightly cloudy brush. So what I'm going to do is paint a new layer over this, select white, and then I'm just going to start like painting in the edges, just that we lose this kind of fringing. And maybe I don't particularly want that cloud there, so I'm not particularly bothered about that one, to be honest. If you don't have a cloud brush already, I suggest just using like a big soft brush like this one, and you can use that to just like feather off the edges, just paint white around the sides. But I'm going to use my oh, wrong menu, this one here. And this is what I mean about the advantage of having like a brush which has interesting edges, because you can just kind of fade the sides off as required. And I'm going to soften that up a bit, because I don't want it to be too generic. And that looks pretty good to me. Obviously we have areas here where we probably still going to want to lose. Now what I'm going to do now is add a final levels adjustment. So if we come here, and what we can do with this is clip any of the, so that's going to bring the darks down, which isn't what we want, and this here is going to control the white level. So if we grab the right hand side and we just bring this in slightly, if you might not see this on the compression on the video, but we have some information here that we're just going to try and clip slightly, and that looks pretty good to me. So if we look around the edges, we've still kept a lot of the detail, and that looks pretty cool. So let's see how big this is. Now if I go to, sorry, I've done that with a shortcut, Control Alt I, image size, we'll see how big this is. So it's pretty big still, but we've still got our canvas. So let's crop, press C to crop, select this area and hit enter. Okay, now let's press Control Alt Shift I again, and we'll see our brush is about 2000 by 762, which is pretty big for a brush, but again, the bigger your brush, the more detail you're going to have, and it depends on the way you want to apply the brush. So what I'm going to do is, let's say we're happy with this, we're going to come above everything and just with our marquee tool make a selection around the area that we want our brush to be, and then we're going to go to Edit, and where is it? Define brush. Let me just see if that's correct. Okay, so I've made what I've done there is I've flattened everything by going Control Alt Shift E, or you can go to Layer, Flatten Image, or Merge Visible, sorry, either or. And then we've made if we deselect, get our marquee tool, make a selection around the area we want to keep, go to Edit, Define Brush Preset, call it what you want, Cloud Brush maybe, hit OK, and that is automatically going to be saved in your brush panel. So if we have a look here, we'll see it's appeared down there. Now if I create a new document, and let's just fill this again, Shift Backspace, with a color. Let's just say this is a cloud color, and that's cool. And now if I come to white, I have white selected, and I press B, and there you have it. I've got a nice cloud brush, and I can now build up like different banks of clouds, and obviously by overlapping some into others you kind of remove that you know, you don't want to see that this is a repeating pattern. So I suggest making like 2 or 3 cloud brushes, and if I come back to my other cloud brush, which is where is it, up here, and then just start throwing in some of these more like random clouds, we can break up the pattern, and there we have it. You know, we've built up a realistic cloud bank in about 5 seconds. And obviously once you've made your brush as well, you can come into the brush panel here and customize it further. So we could add some scattering. If I come to here and add some scatter, so we could, like when we paint the brushes, we can scatter them. I'm gonna just hit Alt Delete. So as you can see here, we can create a brush which creates multiple instances, and this is how far you'd want it to scatter, and maybe you want those to not be all 100%, like a jitter on the opacity, so that some are more faded than others. Again, it's all down to personal preference. You can add a slight texture to them if you want. This is where the fun is basically, and just go and have fun and customize your brush even further. But yeah, that covers it for today. Go out and make some brushes, and again, this is just one application. I suggest doing this with like city silhouettes, as you saw with my other brush. You can do mountains with it, trees, all that kind of stuff, and then just go into the brush menu and tweak it slightly to add a bit of variation. Grass is a great one for doing grass. You can make facial hair one just by creating a single hair and then applying that as a scatter brush. There's literally endless implications to this technique, so really go out and have fun and start creating a custom library, because it's going to be so invaluable when you come to making large compositions to just have a brush where you can paint a bank of clouds in a minute. And again, use this to like soften areas around masks and stuff so they don't look so generic. So thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next lesson.